Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video here at tablemon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be playing with another Shrouded Fable updated deck, which is Charizard EX. Now for the most part this deck still as powerful. It's a Charizard deck featuring Pidgeot, featuring the support of Rotom, Radiant Charizard, but the best cards from Shrouded Fable just slide in perfectly into Charizard. The first one being Dusknoir, right? Dusknoir with its Curse Blast ability, and also Dusclops, right? Dusclops can be just as good and just as important as Dusknoir. Those extra damage counters that you now get to place are so significant, giving Charizard a different path and a different way to threaten an opponent's side of the board. And of course, 13 damage counters can KO pretty much all basics and stage 1 Pokemon out there. Therefore, you can now threaten two things at once, which previously Charizard was not able to do. And Fezandipiti also slides in perfectly, as whenever any Pokemon gets KO'd, you're also drawing 3 extra cards, and that makes it really difficult for your opponent to fully disrupt you with Iono. If they've knocked out your Pidgeot, you have that as backup. Of course, before we had Bibarel, but Fezandipiti X just does it so much more smoothly because it's just a benched Pokemon, or sorry, it's just a basic Pokemon that you can immediately bench and get the 3 cards instead of having to bench the frail 60 HP Bidoof or perhaps a 70 HP, doesn't matter. It's a frail basic Pokemon that you need to search for the evolution and evolve, right? Because Fezandipiti just lands on the bench and you're ready to flip the script with it. Now, other than that, the deck is as standard as it gets, trying to prioritize consistency with 4 Arven and 3 Iono. There is merit to taking out 1 Iono for a Palpad, which acts almost as the 3rd Iono and gives you flexibility with Bosses Hoarders and Professor Turo scenario. I personally don't think the format is slow enough to warrant that, because then like usually you'll quick search for the Palpad, put back the supporters, and then get to use them until the next turn. So what supporter are you using then? I feel like I'd rather have the 3rd Iono or even a 3rd Bosses Hoarders as opposed to that, because you do have Unfair Stamp as a way to compensate for the loss of Iono in a way, right? But for me, 4 Arven are untouchable. They're the best card to find early on. They give you so much play by finding Poffins, Nest Balls, Forest Seal Stones, the Rare Candies, the Ultra Balls, the Counter Catchers, the Super Rod. It's too powerful in my opinion. I personally would never play, like, my golden rule for Charizard is 4 Arven and Lumineon. Those are untouchable for me. I see a lot of lists playing a 3-3 split of Arven Iono. I see a lot of lists, especially from Japan, playing 2 Rotom, no Lumineon, which I understand the reasoning, but personal preference, I really love my Lumineon in the deck, and at 4 Arven are non-negotiable for me. Other than that, the one flex spot could be the Jamming Tower. Jamming Tower is powerful, but also very situational and not very effective against a lot of decks. That could become a Lost Vacuum, which is essentially similar, but it's searchable by Arven, just less powerful overall as a card. It doesn't have the double effect of Stadium or Tool Denial. You have to choose which one, and if Jamming Tower stays in play for more than 1 turn, then you're even gaining more out of that, right? So right now it's Jamming Tower. It could be the Palpad, could be Lost Vacuum, could be something else, like a 3rd Nest Ball for maximum consistency. But anyways, let's jump in some games, see how we do with this powerful Charizard EX. Alright, so could be up against Ready Drago or Dragapult, so I'm actually going to start the 60 HP Charmander because I don't know. I have a pretty decent hand overall. Manaphy even protects me from a potential Greninja. Now, I could Force Seal Stone for Poffin, for Pidgey, and a Duskull, and then hope I get one of my 4 Arvens for candies off of the instant charge, or I could just save the Force Seal Stone for a guaranteed candy next turn. I kind of feel like I want to prioritize the setup a little bit. This also lets me check the deck, so I will grab the Poffin. Did not prize an Energy. Did prize a Poffin, did prize a candy, did prize an Arven, so immediately our chances are reduced, but it is what it is. Alright, so we'll get those two. and I will go ahead and attach. Keep the bench space open, see what else I can find next turn. Well, not great. Probably gonna be another turn of instant charge. It is what it is. Now, concealed card's a double turbo. So is this Miraidon? Okay, Xerosic as the turn 1 supporter. So is this Pidgeot control then with Greninja? I am very confused. Alright, I need to discard 3 cards. So these 3 can go, that's fine. That's gonna be well, no, they're not gonna do that every turn, right? Alright, well, looks like if I had saved my Forest Seal Stone, I would have already won. That will not be the case, however, but that's okay. Heat Tackle, nah, definitely instant charge. Alright, well, Ultra Ball gets me Lumineon, as long as it's not priced, I think. See another concealed card, another double turbo. We're gonna see another Xerosic, no, but we are going to see a Nest Ball. And there's a Great Tusk, so that sort of explains. 2 double turbos being gone is actually pretty good. And then I do have Dusclops to just make sure that I'm always KOing Great Tusks by increasing my damage output. And I finally top decked the Arven, so pretty happy with that for sure. Did I have the Lumineon? I forgot. I did prize the Lumineon. Alright, so all good though. Not gonna care about the Unfair Stamp, not gonna care about the Nest Ball. I will care about establishing Pidgeot and then going for the Charizard and then blowing up the Dusclops so that I can in fact get a KO on this. The damage is irrelevant, but actually having control over my opponent's prizes is going to be pretty significant. And I mean, I think against a more competitive deck, we probably would have been in a little bit of trouble since we did have to instant charge twice, and that's not usually ideal. However, they would have only had 1 turn, so maybe that was fine anyways. Only gonna get 1 energy, no need to do more. And then I will go ahead and Curse Blast the Radiant Greninja. There was no way for me to win the game this turn. I didn't have access to both this and Dusknoir. Like this Charizard and Dusknoir. I think, I'm pretty sure I did not. Oh, there's this thing. Oh, I forgot. I completely forgot about the stadium. All good. No worries at all. I'll just find a stadium eventually. Oopsies. Completely forgot about the stadium. Generally, never even crossed my mind. It's the brand new stadium, which prevents all damage done to Pokemon that don't have a rule box, such as Great Tusk, by attacks from the opponent's Pokemon EX. So even blowing up the Dusclops was actually a mistake, right? Could have, and I topped the Dusknoir as a punishment. I should have just waited, right? Grabbed my stadium and then won this turn by knocking out both. But it's fine. Clearly my opponent's just not doing anything at all. We'll take this KO. That card cannot be put back into play no matter what. So I did prize my other stadium. Don't have access to it quite yet, but that other stadium is no longer a worry. So all good. All good. And my opponent has literally been doing nothing, right? So, well, we get now the annoying Artisan. It is what it is. I'll probably now use it myself to establish a Duskull and then get a potential double knockout eventually with the Dusknoir. I'll start quick search for a boss to take down the Great Tusk. That seems reasonable. They do get rid of a counter catcher, which is good. It doesn't work right now, thanks to the price I give them, but this match would have already been over if I had just been patient and not forgotten about the stadium. So oopsies. And obviously I saw it when they played it. it did not fully cross my mind that it was something I needed to be aware of, but no problem at all. We see the Mobile, I have Turo, it's fine. Probably gonna go after the Mobile right here this turn, but as long as I conserve my Turo, I should be completely fine. I will be more careful with the energies, however. And I mean, I don't think Mobile's annoying because I have Turo, so I'm just gonna take down the Great Tusk, which actually gets rid of resources. Now, this does mean Counter Gatcher will work for my opponent. Like I said, I have the Turo, I'm not really worried. Socks at the stadium is there, so now that means I'm probably gonna have to play a 6-price game no matter what. When I could have already won a while ago, but live and learn, pay attention to your opponent's cards. And once again, it's not that I didn't pay attention, it's just I forgot about the effect. I really did forget about the effect. Alright, Arven for another Great Tusk. Let me see another Sodom. Let me see an attachment. We're gonna see the Counter Catcher or the Handheld Fen. TM Devo, that's fine. Counter Catcher, that's also fine. The TM Devo is especially annoying because I will have to either give up on the Pidgeot or give up on the Dusknoir play. It is what it is, no big deal. Alright. I mean, gosh, this game just went from so easy to so annoying. Hopefully there's no more than one thing. So I'm just gonna save the Dusknoir for like literally the last turn where I just win the game. And I'm just gonna take the KO. So yeah, I'm gonna save the candy. I mean, my opponent could generally go TM Devo Iono, and maybe that would be annoying. There's merit to not playing any cards, precisely because of that. The fan is also annoying, for sure. The Charm doesn't put Greninja out of range of the Dusknoir, which is good. It has exactly 130 HP left, so I win in 2 turns. In theory, I win in 2 turns. And my opponent hasn't even milled any cards at all. I have everything I need in order to win in my current hand as well. So I think I'm good. No. It's a Rosic. Oh, this Rosic is just gonna be so annoying. Nah, I think it'll be fine. Alright. So goodbye you. And I honestly think it's a Pidgeot. Gosh, that's so annoying. But I have energy for next turn. We're only gonna discard 1 card, which is fine. They didn't play an ancient supporter, obviously. And it's just an Ultra Ball, no big deal. Alright. So, I mean, do I attach the energy or just let my opponent think that they got me? Alright. I win next turn, as long as nothing else annoying happens. I have the perfect 3 cards to win. The energy, the Rare Candy, and the Dusknoir. And that's the issue, quotation marks, with Rosic. That you don't get to choose, right? Your opponent chooses when you play it, so they're obviously going to keep the good cards, right? Which is exactly what I did. All right, so what happens now? Do they get... Okay, like the one thing they could have done to make it super annoying and probably not have a chance at winning, but maybe, would have been if they go Mowile the Pidgey. right? But I still have another Pidgeot EX and I have my Rare Candy. So I could have evolved to get rid of the effect. Now they're gonna get rid of 4 cards, but I have exactly everything I need in my hand. So it should be fine. As long as nothing crazy happens. They already play that supporter, so my hand cannot be targeted. They already have the ace pick in the Dusknoir PAL, so they cannot play another one in Unfair Stamp to affect me. So we're gonna go Rare Candy Dusknoir, KO that, and that's perfectly fine. And then we're gonna attach. So, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and Rare Candy. We're gonna use Cursed Blast, 130 damage or 13 damage counters. That is important. Like there's nothing that really affects this right now, but the fact that it's 130 damage and not 130 damage counters, sorry, not 13 damage counters, like there is a world where maybe that matters. And here we go. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have their hand on the concede button and they let me take the win. All right, so that was an unnecessarily long game. I could have won on the 3rd, 4th turn. I don't know. I had just been patient with my Dusknoir. Ended up working out, still won. I was never in any danger, I don't think, especially when I unlocked the Rare Candy that was prized. So all good, on to the next one. All right, so here we go. Not a bad hand at all. Anytime you have Rotom double Poffin, that's amazing. Seems like we're up against Gardevoir, which, in my opinion, and Dusknoir really helps in that matchup and really turns things around. And of course, when your opponent just has that absolutely horrendous start, things are not gonna go well for them. So we also have the perfect hand, right? So compared to them, having this without a supporter, like sometimes that alone is just gonna determine the winner, just the starting hand, the strength of the starting hand. If it's so different as is the case right now, that's just gonna end up deciding. Now I'm gonna keep the bench space open. I will attach this and I will attach the Force Seal Stone in case I get Iono'd, as I am playing against a deck that plays 4 Ionos, of course. So always anticipate that. You know, Guardy players play 4 Iono and they don't play any tool removal, therefore the Force Seal Stone is safe and you want to play it down in case your hand gets Iono'd. I know there's nothing threatening me, like my opponent threatens 10 damage, that's it. So feeling pretty good. Now the big thing to worry about in this matchup and to try to play around as best as possible is the TM Devo play, right? That's like the really big menace that can happen. And then of course you have Dusknoir now to target different targets. Oof, wow, what a hand. I'm so sorry, opponent. That is so rough. I'm guessing they're gonna Super Out them back and then TM Evo them into play. I really hope that's what they do, because otherwise this is just awful. Well, or I hope they... Okay, there they are. Either way, I was hoping they didn't prize the other two Kirlia so that they could get them out. So we actually have a game to show, right? I don't want to win just by my opponent end drawing and that's it. They lost all advantage they had by going first. So I will definitely have a big advantage, right? They don't have... They'll only have 1 energy in the Dusknoir PAL, already used a Super Rod, already losing the Drifloon versus my almost picture perfect setup. Alright. So with this in mind, I definitely don't want to Iono their 2-card hand. I want to force the most resources out of them. So what I will be doing is I will be establishing Pidgeot for sure, and Charizard and the Dusknoir. So I mean, I know I had Ultra Ball. And so I will also Ultra Ball away these two and grab myself the Dusclops and then quick search for a Rare Candy. There was also merit to Ultra Balling for the Charmeleon. I will say this is like very aggressive on my part. The safer play would have been to go for the Charmeleon, but essentially like I can sense weakness on my opponent's side of the board, right? They've already spent a good amount of resources. They had a very underwhelming turn 1. They could end up using Iono, but if they do, then that means they won't be able to, or using TM Devo will be a lot harder. A TM Devo, if they do it right now, will be harsh, right? Don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't be the end of the world either. So we'll take this knockout. We're threatening the Dusknoir after they have used their refinements. Next turn I'll feel a lot more comfortable using the Iono, and my goal next turn would be to go Dusknoir, get 1 KO, and then have Charmeleon as a backup. That would be ideal. We'll see. Yeah, but they lead with the refinement now with an Iono, so that means they probably do not have Iono. Palpad is a questionable choice in Gardevoir. I feel like the format is a little too fast for Palpad to ever be relevant in this deck. Like, it's relevant in Raging Bolt, where you're using Pokestop and just going through things so quickly. But also Roxanne, right? So I really hope my opponent has 4 Iono and Roxanne. That is also a second Drifloon, so that's a little scary. So not the most orthodox Gardevoir list either, so that should also influence in terms of the possibilities that my opponent has. Now, the dream here would be to top deck, yeah, and Moonlit Heal. So never mind, this is not a standard Guardy deck, so that could explain a little bit of the underwhelming start, and that draw is just insane. So now I could just go boss 1 Kirlia, KO the other, deny the Kirlias, deny their draws. Definitely gonna go do that. Once again, I am left exposed to a TM Devo, but I smell a weakness, and also these non-standard cards, right? The second Drifloon, the Palpat, the Roxanne, the Moonlit Heal, definitely tell me that I'm not up against the most competitive Gardevoir deck, at least in my opinion, right? So I think doing this is perfectly fine. We're gonna Curse Blast. Yes, they get a prize, that's fine, but they lose a Kirlia, which is huge. Now, don't ever make the mistake and to use the boss first and then Curse Blast the Kirlia in the active, because that would be a shame. Now that I've said it, who wants to bet that I will end up doing that at some point? Alright, all good. All good. We get the Pidgeot, and now we just attack. Don't really care about the stadium at this point in time. I guess if I play the Jamming Tower, that is a way to protect me from the TM Devo, so maybe I should have considered playing it a little bit more strongly. But like, that's the one way my opponent could possibly make this comeback. Like, that's the one way they could. Is it realistic? No, but that is the one way they could delay me enough to where they make something happen, right? Unlikely, not impossible. And you always want to try and account for like the absolute worst possible play that could happen, right? Because if you prepare for the worst possible play and it happens, then all right, well, you prepared for it. And if you prepare for the worst possible play and it doesn't happen, then actually you're probably even in a better spot. So now I will finally protect from a TM Devo play. It's only a Ralst. I could just go after it with a boss, but I feel like that's completely unnecessary at this stage in time. I'll do that, sure. It's not really anything relevant. The game's gonna be over in 2 more turns. Like, if I lose this game, it's because I disconnected. There's no other way anymore for my opponent to actually win this game at this point in time. I've definitely said that before and been punished. And I've definitely thought that before in tournaments and been punished, but I'm fairly confident with this one. Fairly confident with this one. Alright, we see another Ralts, hit the field, and we see a pass. So, I mean, generally I'm not even gonna bother quick searching. I just wanna finish this as quickly as I can. And you can see like Dusknoir influenced the last game, right? That little bit of extra damage set up the Greninja and also gave me a 2-price turn. Here it allowed me to KO 2 Kirlias at once. So yes, giving up a price card can be harsh, but if the payoff is worth it, then you have to go for it. You know, you absolutely have to go for it. Now we do see the Super Rod, which, I mean, this is another thing. Like, my opponent's clicking on every card that they can, right? But it's important to be aware of the field and aware of the, I don't know, the game. Like, maybe they're just having fun clicking on the cards, right? But when your opponent's down to one price card, the field looks like it is right now. It's like, that was just a waste of time, right? So they did realize, and they just wanted to play every card, which, if that's what you find fun, sure, but I don't personally. But all right, let's play one more. All right, so don't know what I'm up against. I'm gonna lead with the Manaphy to have Pidgey and Duskull protected. I am going first. It is the mirror match, so it's unfortunate that I will not be able to bench a Charmander, right? I do have Lumineon for Arven next turn, plus 4 Seal Stone, so I can get Poffin for double Charmander, establish my Pidgeot in that way, give myself a quick search, but that also puts down a liability in Lumineon, so it's questionable. We see an Entei, so I think like one of the issues, and I'm sure like a lot of you have noticed, like I like coordinating with other top level players to record videos. It's like, it's just not worth it for them. It's like, it's too much time. It's hard to account for my timetable, schedule, theirs, and it's just like, just not worth it, honestly. Yeah, for either party. So then you want to record a video, you go onto the ladder and try to get some games in, but then you end up playing against the most random, not competitive deck list, which is fine, right? Everyone starts from somewhere. Not everyone has access to every single card. Not everyone is a fully competitive player, right? And that's completely understandable. And I'm not saying that everyone should be, right? But it's just like, I've definitely strayed away from these videos because of how difficult it is for it to make them like super valuable in terms of the opposition, right? Everything I analyze and everything I try to share, I try to do it the best way possible. I try to do it in the most competitive way possible, and in my analysis, in my realization of mistakes. But realistically, the opposition is not giving me too much most of the time, right? Sometimes we get some really good games, but I feel like those are the exception, not the rule. As we just saw my opponent Arven and use their 4 Seal Stone for another Charmander. There's an Entei in the Charizard, which that's sort of acceptable, right? But now we're seeing Capture Aroma and Switch. So unless they're maxed at 4 Nest Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, and they one of Capture Aroma, it's just not better than Nest Ball, and definitely not better than Ultra Ball, right? But sometimes the logic is, oh, I hate discarding cards, so I'm not going to play Ultra Ball, which is understandable, but also wrong. All right, that Ultra Ball is actually a pretty nice top deck. I kind of have a feeling I'm not going to be too bothered by losing this boss. All of these cards are good. I want to establish the Pidgeot and just Iono, and this means I don't have to bench the Lumineon, which is great. I also get to keep the Defiance Band available, assuming my opponent's going to knock out by the Manaphy, and I'll have Charmanders, and then I'll be able to return the KO with Charizard without having given up a single prize. The Iono also takes away their Charizard and the candy that they search for, which is great for me. And yeah, I mean, there's a double Charmander, which is fantastic. I mean, I could end up... This hand is almost too good. This hand is almost too good. Now, I do need to guarantee myself a Charizard piece. I don't have one of the pieces right now. And setting up the Dusclops would be nice, but I don't really need it. This gets me candy and the Defiance Band, so I'm just gonna keep that here. Gonna be a little patient and just hold everything else. No need to do anything else. And I don't want a Nest Ball for Rotom and then have them go bench, attach boss and get ahead 2 prizes. There's no need. If they take one and then I go ideally 2/2, that's fine. They get the Rare Candy Charizard off of the Iono, that's also fine, right? As long as it makes it for situations to like, for analysis and to share knowledge and try to envision how we win, all good. Yeah, so I'm always rooting for my opponents to have a good setup, and I'm always rooting for me to have a good setup, so we get some good games overall. All right. So there's Bidoof, no Pidgeot in sight. And we're gonna see the fleet-footed. And just the KO, I'm guessing. We're gonna see a boss, alright. On a Charmander, perfectly fine by that. So the ideal scenario here for Oz is they get one prize card, that's fine, we establish another Charmander, we get the return KO very easily through the Arven, and then we try to build up to the Dusknoir so that we have a clean KO on the Charizard as well. That's the plan, at least, right? We'll see if that works out as I'm intending. So, all right, first we're gonna Nest Ball for another. I could honestly get Fezandipiti because my Charizard is not really threatened. I don't mind getting the 3 extra cards actually. So yeah, I actually really like that. So, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, well, no. All right, I will Arven. I was thinking, like, the sequencing here is definitely not standard. This is great, right? And so I'm gonna Fezandipiti, hoping for either Dusclops or Charizard, and that way I can quick search for the other, and that's perfect. There we go. There was a risk of me getting one too many energies. Perhaps, probably not. No, yeah, there was no risk. Well, I could have drawn 3 energies, I guess, and then I wouldn't have been able to attack this turn, but obviously that's not the case. And my Charizard should be 100% safe at this point in time, so I can delay establishing another Charmander at this point in time, no problem. Go ahead and do this, we'll go ahead and do this. And then this gives me 2 prizes, which hopefully includes some, like there's a Charmander prize, any form of basic search to establish another Charmander, or an Ultra Ball to establish the Dusclops. Any of those is perfectly fine, right? That way I free up my quick search. And there's a Poffin, so all perfect. Generally all perfect. My opponent could KO Fezandipiti, that's fine. Could attack into Charizard. Either way, I am completely okay. Perhaps if they knock out Fezandipiti, that would be like the worst situation for me in that sense. Because then if I blow up the Dusclops, the Dusknoir, because I always confuse Dusclops and Dusknoir. If I blow up the Dusknoir, then they are able to, they'll be at 2 prizes, and then if they get another Rare Candy Charizard knockout, then could possibly win. Like if they go after the Pidgeot, right? So maybe let's not hope that they KO the Fezandipiti. But off of this Arven, they could easily have Counter Catcher. So Ultra Ball and Evo, sorry. Alright, I thought for a second they had 2 Forest Seal Stones. So maybe that capturing Aroma was just as a one-off. Maybe the switch is because in the ladder there's a lot of Snorlaxes, and then maybe this is because they just don't like Fezandipiti. Or they've lost one too many times to Iron Thorns, if you will. One of the two. So they will get to replenish their hand, which is fine. Not a big deal at all. So, alright. My plan this upcoming turn is Poffin for Charmander, quick search for Dusknoir, KO the active Charizard, and then leave myself the possibility to finish off the game against my opponent's Charizard EX. Upcoming Charizard EX, right? So just a Burning Darkness, that's fine. We have our full plan laid out, which is great. So we're gonna go ahead and Poffin, and I even got the the Supra top deck, so this is just icing on the cake. So we're gonna go quick search for this friend. I mean, and there's always a chance that I whiff, but I'm gonna also have 3 extra cards from Fezandipiti. So this deck is just like, it has a tough Regidrago matchup for sure. But when it runs, it runs. Like, this deck is just... Dusknoir really brings Charizard, in my opinion, to a whole other level. Like, generally to a whole new level in terms of raw power, flexibility. Now you have more control on how much damage you're doing. Now you actually have a threat to an opponent's possible bench as well. It's really on a whole other level. All right, I'm gonna put these 3 back. Lumineon could be useful to find a supporter next turn. Now I'm also trying to thin in case they play Roxanne or Unfair Stamp, right? So getting rid of all those cards, very important. And we're just gonna take the knockout like this. This is now possible, right? Now, even if your opponent's at 4 prizes, you can still knock out a Charizard EX pretty cleanly, which is really fantastic. Now, neither of the 2 prizes really helped out. And what I need next turn is Rare Candy, Charizard, and Dusclops. Alright, so I need all 3 cards to win next turn. If I don't get all of that, I could end up losing. So it's not perfect, right? We're not out of the woods yet. And it sucks that I have so many cards in my hand and none of those are any of the outs that I need at this point, but hopefully within the next 4 cards I can find something. All right, well, that's another interesting route to take for sure. This only gives my opponent 1 prize card, which means I am less in a rush, if you will, to or I'm less pressured. Yes, it denies my Pidgeot, but it's also more awkward for my opponent, and because my opponent will have taken a knockout during their turn, I will still be able to draw 3 cards with Fezandipiti. So my win condition has not changed because of the 50 HP Pidgey. I need a Rare Candy and a Dusclops, which is harder to find without Pidgeot, of course, but not impossible either. Certainly not impossible. I mean, another win condition could also just be boss, a Candy Boss to KO the Charmeleon, which is why putting back the Lumineon was actually a pretty smart move, I think. All good. Alright, and that doesn't do it. Or does it? Because I have 4 Seal Stone, right? Actually, that does it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that does it. Because I have 4 Seal Stone. So that was a very good top deck, but I probably didn't need it. Anyways, we're just gonna get the Charizard, and then we bench Rotom 4 Seal Stone. I'll fail. I wasn't sure. It's fine. Yeah, so I'll do this. I'll do this. I will go ahead and start Alchemy. And so we will get those clubs, and this is also why don't play the 50 HP Pidgey anymore, right? It's in range of Dusclops, and it also gives Dragapult or Regidrago 1 leftover counter. They KO the Pidgey and then they have 1 leftover counter to establish another potential win condition, right? Or like another potential Pokemon to be KO'd by the next turn by the Dragapult attack. So unfortunately, I mean, if you want to take the risk, take it. I think there's too much Regidrago and too much Dragapult in the format for that to be something that you don't worry about. So I feel like my opponent might have Rage Quit. Or, okay, I mean, they didn't concede, which is nice. And we get the win. So, yeah. And I mean, I used Dusknoir twice, right? It doesn't matter if you give your opponent prizes if you're gaining them faster, right? Which I feel like it's something that a lot of players, especially when they're starting out, like, they're so concerned on not giving their opponent prizes that they forget that they also need to take prizes, right? So sometimes retreating so that they don't KO you, but then you don't do anything significant, means sure, they don't KO you, but you also don't KO, so you're not getting closer to winning, right? So it's okay for your Pokemon to go down as long as they don't knock out 6, right? 5, fine, 6, no bueno. So make sure they don't knock out 6, but if something gets KO'd, that is okay. But anyways, thanks so much for the games, for watching, sorry. Thank you so much to my opponents for the games, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.